We're going to dive into this case study today. I'm excited to share it with you. And I want to show you at least 5 different places where this creator is locking herself up and not able to find the possibilities for growing her business, even though she knows she needs it. And out of those 5 traps that I'm going to point out, I'm going to give you some actionable things that you can start to use in your own life where you may be locking yourself up right in the messy middle, and then at the very end, give you the possibility of working with me more. So this creator is saying, I need some help scaling my business. I'm at about 140 to 200,000 per year, and I've been here for 3 years. I want to hit a million. I know I can. I join course after course, program after program. Each course I buy is hours and hours of video, and I get bogged down, overwhelmed. I can't finish, and I just fizzle out because I have a million things on my plate to get done. Can anybody relate? Is it ads? Is it good emails? Is it good posts? Not a clue. I want legitimate, doable steps and processes that won't cost me $10,000 to implement day one because I don't have it. I do group health coaching, food addiction course, and a few other little courses. I don't want high ticket. I want evergreen. Help. So, the very first place that this creator is locking herself up and putting herself in the trap is at the very beginning of her post. And can you guess what it is? I need some help scaling my business. Now, why is this a trap? Every decision and conclusion that we come to right there in the messy middle, no matter where it is in our lives, traps us. Because a decision or a conclusion of what you've decided it's going to take to change what you feel like is the problem creates a fixed point, it creates a limitation. So already she's coming from a premise. That's what a decision or a conclusion does. It gives you a foundation off of which you're springboarding your questions. So the foundation off of which she's springboarding her questions is, I need some help scaling my business. There's proof as far as she's concerned that this is what she needs. And now all she needs to do is find the person who can help her do this. Now, I'm not saying scaling is wrong. I am in the process of 10xing myself. But the thing that I've done that's different with my process is I brought my problem or the pain that I was experiencing all the way back. And I'm going to tell you what I mean by that. So, the first thing to remember is decisions and conclusions lock you up, and questions open you up. So, another possibility for her might have been, instead of I need some help scaling my business, this is what's showing up in my life and in my business. This is how I'm feeling about it. This is really where I want to go with my life. Does anybody have any creative ideas about what I could choose to get there? That's one way. It's like, what are the infinite possibilities for having a different life? And let's dive into that for a second, because the truth is, if you and I are looking at scaling our business, here's what's happened. We have a business, we've reached a level of success with our business, but that level of success now is taking a toll instead of being exciting. And there's all kinds of reasons for that. We start doing business full time and our lives start depending on our income. And so instead of it being this fun, creative exercise, it changes into this thing we have to do to keep the bills paid, is one element. The other thing that happens is something about reaching new people has either stopped or slowed to a trickle. And I was doing a lot of research the other day on this because I realized 3 years ago, I just stopped doing that. I mean, I was doing content and people were still finding me, but I was really projecting and expecting that my content would do the same things that it did before, and it just didn't. And it was a convergence of factors. And maybe this is you too. Perimenopause, I was living abroad and I wasn't having a very easy time. Like, there was just a lot of factors that were contributing to this, but whatever it was I was putting out wasn't getting the same results. So when that starts to happen, a lot of times we'll either stop putting out content or we pull back or we start doubting ourselves. And so energetically, we've got all this shit going on. So it's at those moments where those of us that have gotten to a certain level of success and it starts to dwindle for whatever reason, like we can't put the same effort in because our body is changing, or we've got life stuff happening, or we're different now, but we haven't fully acknowledged it, or the market's changed, or whatever change has happened has created this scenario where there's elements of our business ecosystem that are flagging. And a lot of times, what's flagging most dynamically is our being because we've gotten so busy with the busy work of business that we haven't really paid attention to the root stock of business, which is ourselves. So there's a lot of different things there. But then if we go to conclusion about what it takes to change that, then we're going to head down that path as if that's the answer. And it may or may not be the direct thing that's going to change this for me. And I'm going to tell you why as we go through the rest of her post. Okay. So the first thing to get is when you go to a decision or a conclusion, it limits things and it puts you on a specific path that may or may not actually work out the way you hope it will. So here's the second piece of her post. She tells us where she's at. She's at about 140 to 200K per year. You know, that's a fairly comfortable living. Like you're not poor, you're not broke, still kind of bootstrapping it to a degree. And she's been there for 3 years. She wants to hit 1 million, and I know I can't. So she's plateaued essentially, right? She's right in this waterline. Anybody else? So she's like, I know I can 10x because that's what going from 140 to 1 million is 10x. So I join course after course and program after program. Each course I buy is hours and hours of video, and I get bogged down, overwhelmed. I can't finish, and I fizzle out because I have a million things on my plate to get done. So the second trap that we get ourselves into when it comes to scaling, let's use that word for a second, is we trap ourselves in the 2x mindset when what we need is a 10x mindset. And I'm going to break that down because I really don't like the word mindset, but let's use it for a second. What I mean by that is what got you here is not what's going to get you there. And if you want to get there, which by the way, you're going to get there and you're going to want more, but we'll get into that in a future case study. If what you want is to 10x, then what has to happen is we have to pull ourselves all the way back to what we want our life to be like. I want you to think back to when you first started the business you're in now that's hitting that kind of this, right? You're in choppy, bumpy plateau waters, right? Where you like, there's more, and you're just kind of angsty, tired, overwhelmed. You've got that pain, right? I want you to look at what you wanted when you first started your business. When I first started my business, I wanted location independence. I wanted to be able to create a flow of money and clients from anywhere in the world. I wanted to be able to take whatever access consciousness class I wanted to take whenever I wanted to take it, which was not cheap. And I wanted to have an impact. So 4 basic things. And from those 4 basic things, I created my business at the time. And that sustained me and changed a lot of people's lives over the 5 or 6 years that I was full time in it. But when I started hitting that choppy plateau where you're like uncomfortable because something needs to change and you want more, but it hasn't changed yet, I had a bit of a rough time because the first thing I tried to do was to get there from my original framework. I tried to do more of the same things to get different results. Can anybody relate? That was okay. I mean, I started really getting into reels and I had a couple of reels that popped off and showed me to a bunch of new people, but my list didn't grow. In fact, my email list was slowly dwindling because I wasn't putting a lot of energy into building my list. I had this other thing going on. So here was my decision. If I put energy into content creation in a different way and I get more clear and I get better at headlines, my business will grow. That was my conclusion. So, man, I went after it for a while. Now, granted, if I had done that same level of effort over probably 3 years, I definitely would have seen results. But after doing that level of effort for like, you know, 3, 6 months, I was exhausted. It wasn't something I could maintain because I had all these other business activities to keep my business as I'd built it so far in place. I had to do all this other stuff and this on top of it. So it wasn't sustainable. And a lot of us in this messy middle are trying things that aren't sustainable. This is exactly what she's addressing. She's like, I bought all the courses. I'm on the hamster wheel. I've got the stuff. It's hours and hours of video. I don't have time to go through it all. I'm overwhelmed. I can't finish and I fizzle out because I've also have all this other shit to do. So the trap is that I have to do this to get this and I can't. And that's the 2x mindset that I'm talking about. So we got to bring ourselves back. So, what did you want when you first started that you built? What was that? What were those elements for you? And what is it that you want now that you need to build that may or may not be built on the same foundation that you built so far? Now, I don't want you to freak out because I'm not telling you to trash everything that you've created so far. That's not how this has to work. But I want you to recognize, do you want now the same thing that you wanted then? Has it changed? And now, what would you have to get clear on? What are the 4 elements of what you want now? I'll give you an example from my life. I want a business that takes me 2 to 3 hours a day max to run. I want a business that is constantly finding new people. I want a business that has systems in place that can scale over time. And I want programs and courses and ways of working with me that are sustainable for me and my body so that I can live my life, have space with my body, have time with my family, and have time to travel the world and develop myself even further. And in fact, go on to build a portfolio of businesses rather than be involved directly with the entire day to day operations of this business. So, what I want has changed. And it took me a while to really fully identify that. In fact, it was kind of a painful year, I have to be honest. So I don't want that for you. I want to shortcut your process. So if you are trying all these things but they seem not to work, you've got to step away and look at what you want now so that you can ask yourself some very different questions. The questions I'm using now: what do I want now that I haven't acknowledged? What are the 4 or 5 elements? What would it take to actualize that? And in a future video, I'm going to talk more about what's the difference between create and manifest and actualize, because they're very different. What choices do I have available that I haven't chosen yet? And can I build the business I am aware of on the same foundation as the business I built so far? Or is it a different audience? Is it a different message? Am I a different person? Basically, she said, I'm fizzle out because I have a million things on my plate to get done. What is it specifically, is what she's asking, that will move the needle? Is it ads? Is it good emails? Is it good posts? Not a clue. And here's the third trap. She just revealed her third trap. I don't know. Now, we're talking about somebody who really has consumed and consumed and consumed and bought and purchased and tried to try, like, okay, now I've got course overwhelm. I've got so much information in my world. I have no idea. That seems like a reasonable things to say, but I have no idea is a trap. This took me a long time to work into my life and to really get and to live out. And I want to talk to you about it because it's one of the pillars of my system. Knowing is a pillar to navigating any messy middle. You have to start to acknowledge that you know. So let's tease this apart a little bit, right? She's like, what's going to do it? Is it ads? Is it emails? Is it posts? Everybody's telling me something else. Everybody's saying it's going to be this. I bought all their formulas. I'm looking at all the things. I want to put my energy into all the things, but I'm one person. I have no idea. And so she goes to, I want legitimate. So I want something that's going to work, that's real, doable steps and processes that won't cost me $10,000 because I don't have it. So I need stuff that's really going to work, that doesn't cost me an arm and a leg, and I need it now. But the first step to getting that, to getting access to that, is to know. Now, let me tell you how this works. When you tell yourself, I don't know what to do, the very first thing you cut off is your creative ability to lead yourself to clients and money. You have the ability to lead yourself forward into what's going to move the needle for you if you get access to choose be two things. If you're willing to ask and be the question and you're willing to know. Now, this takes practice. And this is what I work with my clients. This is why I have the container of the More Money, More Clients with Flow in 90 days, that 3-month intensive where we start to really strengthen knowing, and we strengthen being, and we strengthen perceiving. Why? Because here she is going, look, the answer's outside of me. I don't know, which probably, and by probably I mean isn't true. She does know. She has a sense of something, but she's cut it off. And now, because she's cut off herself and what she knows and what her sense of things is, and because she's the only one that can know herself, you're the only one that can know yourself, then she has to, of necessity, look outside herself, which makes her a victim to everybody else outside of herself. And honestly, long term is going to give her the reason to quit. And I hate to say this, but this is what we do to ourselves. And it's so unconscious. So that's why I wanted to really tease this apart for you. This is unconscious. It's not like we're consciously going, I'm going to give myself and I'm going to create for myself a reason to quit this business, to quit on myself, basically. We don't do that consciously, but we do it unconsciously. So, in making yourself a victim to all of the information out there, like how do I even do the, we we set ourselves up for a future failure, which will feel justified because at that point we will feel like we've done every single possible thing that we know and it didn't work and we're just tired and we go on to something else. So, what's the remedy? Okay, great. The very first thing to do with yourself, if you really do want to change this, if you're in that space right now where you're like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I'm bogged down. I'm tired. I'm overwhelmed. I've fizzled out. Like, I don't know what to do. The very first thing to do is you really get present and you go, if I did know, what would I be aware of? All awareness of what's next for you lies inside of you. You are not a stupid person. You are a brilliant person. You got yourself here. If you can get yourself to $200,000 to $300,000 in revenue in a business, you are not a stupid person. You are an able person. But the thing that might be atrophied inside of you is your muscle of knowing and awareness and trusting yourself and fearless living. Like all these character skills that are classified out there as soft skills, but are actually the muscles of consciousness that you need to 10x your life. You think somebody that's 10xing their life is sitting around going, I don't know what to do, and all freaked out and overwhelmed? Maybe they had a minute or month of that. But at some point, the person who's 10xing sat down with themselves and went, okay, fuck it. Whatever it takes, I'm cutting through the noise and I'm going to lead myself forward into 10x. What's important to me? What do I want to have now? What do I know? What am I aware of? Whatever it takes, this is changing. I recognize that doing the same things that I've done and trying to get different results is insanity. I'm going to stop being insane. I might even take a week and stop doing all the activity. Like, stop for a minute, which, by the way, I am doing right now. I'm right in the messy middle with that. I'm not doing business as usual anymore. I'm doing business as unusual. That's going to mean the week or two where the email list isn't getting my daily email because I am turning the fucking ship and putting ads out and starting to reach new people. That's going to mean a bunch of different things, but it's coming from a platform. It's a platform of consciousness. And this is what we need to build inside of ourselves, this platform of knowing. I know that I know that I know that it's time, and I know that I can, and I know that if I'm just willing to open my mouth and create some content and get myself in front of new eyeballs, that this is going to change. Now, your situation isn't the same as mine, but again, if you're in those choppy middle waters, it's similar. Something big needs to change. And it's not you per se, it's your point of view. And so we want to start with activating what we know. When you say, I don't have a clue, and when you say, I don't know, you're deactivating what you do know. But the truth is that you do know, but it's going to take you a minute. You got to start asking yourself, okay, if I did know, what would I choose? And then go for a walk, go on the treadmill, go wash the dishes, do something and let that question percolate. Questions open the door for the universe to contribute to you. And when you say, I don't have a clue, I don't know, you literally slam the door shut on all possibilities coming into your world. And anybody ever have their best ideas in the shower? It's because your mind is offline. You're doing something else. You're just like allowing the creative juices and the rumination that is the creative process and all the molecules of the universe to contribute to you. You just didn't know that's what you were doing. But that's why that happens there, because you're not busy deciding, trying to force out a result that you haven't really allowed yourself to get present with and see if that's going to work for you. So she's going to, I want legitimate, doable steps and process that won't cost me 10K to implement. Now, that seems like a reasonable request, but here's trap number 4. It goes back to trap number 1, which is that she's already decided what she needs. Now, it may be that having a marketing scaling mentor in her life is going to change the game. I actually know somebody that does that. She's amazing. But what I would do with this person is very different. And I would say, is that what you need right now or something else? I would get this person to look at and be aware of what they truly need right now. Do you need some more steps and more processes right now when you're already maxed and you've got a million things on your plate to get done? Do you really need more steps and processes or something else? Maybe it's being willing to let go of the reins for a second and go, okay, what do I truly want my life to be like? If I were going to 10x this thing, it's like taking yourself on a little mini retreat that you don't really have to leave for and sitting with yourself and getting present. Because how many of you get so caught up in the day to day that you never really stop to get present with yourself? What does your body really need? What does your being really need? What presence with you do you require to create this next leap forward? And then here is trap number 5. And this is so important to get. I don't want high ticket. I want evergreen. The fifth place we trap ourselves with moving the needle in our 2x to 10x jump is we get stuck in our preferences and what we think is going to make our life better. So if we look underneath what this person is saying, she's like, I don't want high ticket, I want evergreen. What's she really saying there? You know, we're using a lot of lingo in this post, right? I do all this stuff and I don't want this, I want this. But why would somebody say that? Well, let's look underneath and go, I wonder if she wants evergreen because of what she wants her life to be like, not because she wants evergreen. And this is what we miss in our decision making process. We go pretty unconscious about ourselves and what we really want to have. So, what I would go is it that you don't want high ticket, or have you decided that high ticket means you're going to have to do this, this, and this, and you don't want to have to do this, this, and this. And so, because of that, you want evergreen. So, what if none of that's true? You know, if you pull it all the way back and you're like, what do you want your life to be like from an income perspective? Well, I want to be making at least 500,000. Okay, cool. I want to have more time in my day and in my schedule, and I want to have more space. Basically, I want quality of life from my point of view. And what quality of life is for me is da 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 da, 3 elements of quality of life. And what's the impact I'd like to have? I'd really like my clients to get deep, transformative change. I want to be reaching new people all the time, but I'm not trying to go viral to do that. Like, what else is possible with that? So you start to look at what you want your life to be like with all these different things. And then you put it all in front of you and you want to form that into what could this be like? What could I create? What could I choose? What could I actualize? How could I move forward with what I've built now into something that's going to support the way I want to live long term? Something that's sustainable for my body, sustainable for my family, sustainable for the way I want to live. Might I have to work a little harder in the means to get this up and running? Maybe. But I'm willing to work. You're willing to work. If you've gotten here and you're 150, 300,000, 400, 500,000, you're willing to work. Now it's just changing what you are actualizing from what you want your life to be like. When you say, I don't want high ticket, I want evergreen, then again, you have to take yourself down this specific path and eliminate possibilities that may be one of the greatest gifts to the way you want your life to be like but you'd never even looked at it because you'd already decided that it meant you had to do this, this, and this, and you eliminated it. I don't want this. I don't want this. I want this is a trap. Some people say that that's clarity. That's actually judgment. And I don't mean that as a slam. That's judgment. And that really shocked me because I am not perfect. I've been an access consciousness facilitator for 10 years. I have been facilitating myself with the tools of consciousness for 10 years. I got myself here with the tools of consciousness. So even now, 10 years into this journey, when I hear myself saying, I don't like this, I have to remind myself that that's a judgment. But what? Why is that important? Because every judgment limits. So when you say, I want this and I don't want that, you've got two fixed points that nothing is going to get around. So maybe for this person, a high ticket offer that doesn't require all the things she thinks it does is a tremendous gift. Maybe that is an incredible possibility for her and something she could embody and choose, but not now because she doesn't want that. She's already decided what it means. She's already decided she doesn't want what it means. And so she can't have all the possibilities that are available. She can only have the choices she's decided are the ones that she wants. So if evergreen is the only option for her from her point of view, she will barrel herself down the evergreen runway and have the success she's going to have. It may or may not give her what she wants to have as her life because we've really never looked at that, but it will give her what it gives her, and what will show up will show up. So this is the kind of stuff that I work on with my clients. And if you're not sure where you're trapping yourself, where you're limiting yourself, I want to invite you to take the quiz. It's crystaljoycrawford.com/take the quiz. It's going to give you more of an overview of what your tendencies are. For our friend right here, her tendency is what I call conclusionist. A conclusionist is someone who's very strong in their intellect and can use their brain very, very well, use their mind very, very well. Actually, let's distinguish between the brain and the mind, because the brain is really what runs your body, but your mind is this card cataloging system that bases and references things from the past. So it's very common to function that way, especially here in Western society. That's really what we were taught. We were taught to find answers. We were taught to think. We were taught to be rational. We were taught to weigh the pros and cons. I mean, probably 80% of us are conclusionists. There's 3 other categories that you get to find out about, but you can take the quiz and find out for yourself. But the thing about being a conclusionist is because you're so strong in your mind, what atrophies is your being. Your being doesn't thrive in an environment of all mind. Your being actually atrophies. And your being is the one that created this magic in the first place. You had this creative idea. You wanted to change the world. You knew you could do it. You went after it. That's your being. That's all this aliveness. And in the beginning, for however long the beginning lasted, it was fun because you don't do things that aren't fun. And then it changed. And we don't know exactly when it changed, but very likely it changed around the time that it started to plateau. So either it changed or the market changed. And so because we haven't spent time cultivating this inner game, then we get all screwed up by big changes like that. And so if we're based in our mind, we're going to try to think our way to the next level, but you didn't think your way to the first level. You chose and you went and you ran and you took advantage of what was happening in the world and you created. So now what's required is that same spark, that same aliveness, that same enthusiasm. But how do you get access to that now when you're kind of tired and burnt out and bummed that things have changed? Okay, this is what I work with people on. So the first thing you got to do is start to kind of identify your trend. You typically fall into one of about 4 buckets with a few exceptions. And I know I hate being bucketed too, but go with me here. One is going to be the conclusionist tendency, where you tend to go to the decision of what you think it's going to take to change something. It's very common. I'm a very strong conclusionist myself. There's a way of working with yourself that is different when you tend that way, and that's going to limit you always. Your tendency to go to conclusions is always going to limit what can show up. You're always going to have a harder time because you're going to want to understand everything. You're going to want to know why everything. You're going to want to have logic behind everything. You're going to be looking for solutions and answers. All of that is going to create a very limited, tight, structured universe. And it's not that you can't make money there, but that's not going to be where you thrive. It's not going to be easy on your body. It's not going to include your being and your aliveness and your creativity. And it's not very sustainable over time. It's actually quite draining. So, a lot of conclusionists end up getting sick and tired and burnt out very quickly. Now, you need a different character skill set, being skill set than you have developed so far. Then there's going to be like the super woo. You are going to need more strengthening in your action taking department and your awareness and willingness to be and do whatever it takes to 10x your life and your business. Then we're going to look at the fried banana. Fried bananas have tried everything and they've lived in these choppy waters for quite a while and they're just tired. And your limitation is generally going to be that you're not including your being and you're not including your body. And so there's different ways of working with yourself when you've gotten yourself into being a fried banana. And then there's energy curious. Now, if that's where you're at, you are curious about the tools of energy. You're curious about there's something else possible. You know that there's energetic things that you can be with yourself, questions you can ask, tools you can use that you might not just have the words for yet. And that's a really cool place to be too. So the way you can find out where you're at is you can take the quiz. Where are you blocking yourself? What's your dominant thing that you're doing? What tools can you start to use with yourself to get something different happening in your life and in your business? And then if you want more, my Flow Intensive is my flagship high touch program where you and I get to work one on one, but it starts with taking the quiz.